Rock and roll. Just gonna get my phone stand in the other room. I'm gonna be setting up for some YouTubing today. Something I do on a regular basis, my YouTube, because it's kind of like journaling for me. It's something that's really cathartic and helpful. I've been through a lot. I have a hard time communicating things. Sometimes a lot of people like to journal and write their emotions out. I don't do that as much. It's good for me to just talk it out. That's why I go to therapy. It's also why I do my YouTube.
Settings. Page 1 of spot you page with let be my eyes.
Bam. Wow, let's call a volunteer.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
Good.
Cool. So if you didn't mind, I'm a YouTuber. I was going to do some videotaping today. When I sit down on the couch, I was hoping you could tell me if I have a good shot, if there's lighting, if I'm centered and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Thank you. Wow. How we look? What's up? Pardon me?
A little more.
Just a little more. All right, cool. Slightly more? Cool. Rock and roll. If I move over just a little? Pardon me? No, not your fault. Not your fault. I can ask. Rock and roll. All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Do not show page 1 of 2.
Bam.
Show camera. Camera control sync. Camera 0. Live info. Camera mode. Tilt right video. 0. Record video.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Trauma Talk with Mark Ellert. Something I want to talk to you about because I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life. I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. In dealing with so much trauma, I've actually learned how to handle it and adjust with it. But the reason I want to share this with you is because trauma isn't a uniform thing.
Got it. Forget the Rottweiler. You don't hit no dog. Don't try me. We might find something out. What they say, that's one of Marshall's t-shirts. F-I, F-O, F around. What was it? F-A? F-O? F around and find out. I love to see it.
We have exactly 54 minutes to get started. It's a lot to do, not a lot of time.
I was parked in the driveway and just talking on the phone, yakking and whatnot. Got my bags out the trunk. And that's when two young guys came out the gangway and they was like, B, give me your money.
Intro to pistol 1. Present to external display. All right, boom.
My hot second thing was to just yell. I got a big old mouth. And I just was like, no. My neighbor, Miss Beena next door, immediately, you hear her raise her window. Are you all right? I didn't even have to respond before these two jokers just took off. Boom, boom.
My ultimate goal is to teach 1 million women how to defend themselves with firearms. Right now, I think we're at about 6,500 women. So nowhere near the goal, but one day, we'll get there. I don't intend on teaching all 1 million of those women by myself. I do intend on having help. So we'll get there when we get there. But that's my lifetime goal. A lot of these ladies are, survivors like me, and they just don't know where to start. They don't know what to do to defend themselves. So we got to help them. We got to show them there are options for them, and that, it's a big decision. It's a personal decision.
My name is Chris Grolnick, and I'm considered the nation's leading active shooter expert. The FBI defines an active shooter situation as a shooter going into a location, whether enclosed or open environment, and beginning to arbitrarily fire to right some type of perceived wrong. They exclude robberies and gang violence from these numbers. because it's someone that's motivated, whether it's by hate or evil or retaliation or even retribution, and they go in and they just open fire arbitrarily, they have no desire other than body counts.
I remember calling the police. They got there a while later. And 2 CPD, Chicago Police Department officers, they was writing down the, the whole situation, the report. And they was like, "You in this house by yourself? This house by you?" I was like, "Yeah." They was like, "Listen, you ain't got no gun or nothing in here?" I was like, "No." He said, "If you was my sister, you'd have a gun. And I would suggest that you do what you need to do and worry about the rest later." I was like, dang.
Maybe there'll be some deer out there and stuff. You can show him how you just run off. Don't even care about your mom. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They never do that. So this is the lift that gets me from the manual chair to the power chair. And I've been in a chair for 42 years. And I'm trying to save my shoulders for more fun stuff like biking and swimming and shooting. Boys, stop. Radar.
In my memory, I was alone. I was waiting in front of my middle school for after-school detention to begin. And I still stood there and waited as the gunshot rang out. I saw a kid fall, and I saw the shooter run. And I continued to stand and wait until I had to go to detention, because detention wasn't canceled. The next morning at school, I was interviewed by the local news about the shooting. I laughed during the interview because my friend was making rude gestures behind the cameraman. I had to use the bathroom, but the person interviewing me said that there wasn't time, and if I wanted to be on the news, I'd have to hold it. I wanted to be on the news. It was 1997. Today, when I read an article reporting what happened that day, it says that kids were everywhere. I remember being alone, feeling calm, and being surprised by my calmness. I didn't know Kong. I was 13 and he was 15. He was shot in the head. He ended up in a coma. I don't know if he died.
So the classes are open to anyone. Anyone can attend. We've taught all kinds of men, women, and children of all different ethnicities, but I make sure I target Black women in my marketing because there isn't a whole lot of representation for Black women in the gun industry. There aren't, 1,000 of me's, but there's probably 1,000 white male firearm instructors and, probably 500-600 white women instructors. So I figure, why not have me, why not have that Black woman representation too? I wanted to be that change. I didn't get to see me represented in my instructors when I was learning how to shoot, when I was in the military, so I wanted to be that because I never had that. I think it just makes people more comfortable to see themselves represented in their instructors. Perfect.
At an early age 5, my parents were divorced. My biological mom, she lost custody completely of myself, and my dad had full custody. My dad and stepmom never put me through therapy and never explained to me what happened to my biological mom and who or where she was. It really messed me up as a child. I had a really hard time talking about the way I felt, the things that I felt, the abandonment, rejection, the fact that I felt very unloved. I thought it'd be reason for people to unlove me even more and have more reason to walk out of my life. Eventually, at the age of 19, my biological mom came back into my life, and speaking with her, and actually I started living with her. Upon living with her, my parents, my family found out, and they didn't appreciate it, they didn't like it. They basically just kind of cut me out of their life. And me and my significant other at the time were not doing well. I wasn't happy, and my biological mom, who I lived with, she happened to own a gun. It was sometimes on the coffee table, sometimes on the kitchen table. It was on the couch a few times. I found it in our car a few times driving around. It was never in a safe lockbox, and it was always loaded with the safety off just laying around. I didn't make the connection that I was going to die. I didn't make the connection that I was attempting suicide or trying to kill myself. I literally was having an episode of what I later discovered was bipolar mania because I was in such a low place. A really bad idea sounded like a good idea. I just wanted something to pull me out of my depression, and just coming home, seeing that gun on my kitchen table just gave me just this, that is my answer. It was just a moment of euphoria.
Now you're really in tune with situational awareness. I didn't even know that was a term back then, but now they talk about it all the time because everybody's always on their phone. They barely crossing the street, knowing that a car about to turn on them because they not paying attention. You know what I'm saying? The moment girls get in the car, they don't even lock their car door because they right on the phone. You don't even know if somebody's sitting in the back seat, mummied up, ready to strangle you. You got to get in, look around, you know what I'm saying? Even if you just walk around, make sure you're not sitting on 4 flats, all kinds of foolishness. Situational awareness is real.
I think you should know how to take care of yourself on every level, and I'm not sure that just saying no is enough. The better question to me is how to recognize situations that you shouldn't be in. On so many levels, emotionally, physically, things. Violence can happen. As a woman, I think if I had a better sense of myself. And my life experience was more broad, I wouldn't be sitting in the wheelchair.
As a retired police officer, and even when I was a full-time police officer, I don't think anybody needed a gun. Because when you start responding to violent encounters more and more, you want to build yourself on a platform of winning, and you want to challenge the odds and probabilities. So if we took away firearms, that would be less likely of me having to deal with somebody with a firearm. But as a citizen and a former Marine that swore to uphold and defend the Constitution, I think everyone should exercise their right to buy a firearm. In fact, I think everybody should have 10 firearms. Because with 400 million firearms in the United States in circulation now, if they were the problem, I think we would know it. But that doesn't mean we don't need to visit some common sense approach to working on this problem.
Figure you'd see something jump out by now. There he is. There he goes. There he goes. There he goes. Darn. Get rid of it. Give him a second. I missed him.
It's been over 26 years since I saw Kong get shot in real life, and now I see people get shot every day, whenever I want, wherever I want, right in the palm of my hand. And you know, trauma in the past equals fear in the future, which translates to more gun sales. I feel most reasonable people should have them, whatever that means. Reasonable people will need them as the planet gets too hot, becomes more unpredictable, more strange and angry. The heat will be unbearable soon. Fan yourself with your guns to keep cool. Those destroying the environment are killing us. Those manipulating us through political theater and taking away people's rights are killing us. We know the names and the faces. We can stop this catastrophe. But maybe I'm wrong. Given the choice, I think a lot of people will run with open arms into oncoming calamity. I wonder, and wonder persists, crystallizing into paranoia and becoming several more firearms purchases.
I took that gun, I stuck it in my pocket, and I basically started walking down the street hysterically laughing to myself. And at one point, I stopped and turned around, went back to my house, and actually got my Bible. Yeah, this is the Bible that I had on my person when I was found. It's actually still in the evidence bag that was given to me by the police when they found me. I think God has basically kept me around and saved me. And so that's why I keep my Bibles, because I basically want to remember that God was trying to call me and tell me to stop from what I was doing.
Let me go turn the light on. Takes a moment for it to warm up. The lights will come on in a moment.
I learned about Marshall through Redstone Firearms out of Burbank, California. In their display case, they had her book. And I was like, who is this? You know, and they, you never heard of? Nope. So I bought the book. At that time, she was doing range classes or something or other in Powder Springs, Georgia. And coincidentally, that's where my mother was residing at the time. So in my mind, I said, ooh, next time I get back to Georgia, I'm going to be hitting her up.
So these are some of the materials we use for the classes. We provide everything, so they don't have to show up with any of their own stuff. The ladies can just, you know, show up. Driver's license is all they need, and we have everything else for them. These are what the ladies will use to practice today when we talk about grip and aiming. There it is, a little brighter.
A common sense approach, if you will, would not be banning all firearms or adding more firearms. And I think the false narrative that we see on the news so often is we must take guns away from Americans. We must add guns to America. There's one or the other. It's just too much of a polarizing subject. First, we need to soften the conversation and just simply adjust. Do red flag laws work? Well, now we're impeding on people's rights. Okay, but do they work? And if they do, find a way to implement them that makes sense. Temporary ban, if you will, for a day of somebody that has reported to their propensity for violence, or perhaps a waiting period. You know, a lot of active shooters go to the store the day of and buy a firearm and then go do their deed. The Tulsa Medical Center in 2022, just a few days after Uvalde, the man was so mad at his doctors after having failed surgery, he went and bought a AR-15 and went to the Tulsa Medical Center and killed 4 people. So if we put a waiting period on it, that would be fantastic.
James Madison was referring to 18th century muskets, long guns that needed to be reloaded after a single shot, not Blakeys with extendos and Glocks with 100-round drums. If James Madison were alive today, he'd be dead. Religions, poetry, songs, literature, the Constitution. Why be satisfied with the ideas planted before you were in the world, before you knew it was a word, and you adopted its lessons and were crafting its meanings? To be satisfied with scripture as the land burns away, those are dangerous people, extremists. It is for them also that I could never give up having some sort of gun around. Dear Lord, destroy the gun culture and ban ARs nationwide. But please, Lord, let my friends and I get to keep ours. We're the good ones. We'll be careful, I promise. We'll be smart, I promise. That would make me truly happy.
My home state of Illinois. I just moved from California. I want to say even New York. They got some of the strictest gun laws, man. They really don't want nobody to get no gun over there. But here in Georgia, we carrying around here. You asking for trouble if you walk up on somebody. You don't know who got what. Listen, it's not uncommon to be over here at the pavilion and see men and stuff showing. Okay, whatever. Going about your business. I think there's something to be said for California making people wait, right? I think that there's some good to that, right? Like, do you need one today? What? You waited your whole 40 years before getting a gun. You can't wait 2 weeks.
And that's when I continued walking back to the park where my destination was. When I found myself there, I didn't really know what I was doing there and what I was going to do. When I got there, I stood there for a minute, looked around. Why am I here and what am I doing? I looked at the gun in my hand and said, this is what you're doing and this is why you're here. I even thought, is the safety on? Is it loaded? I have no idea. I was like, you know what? Let's find out. Put it to my head and pulled the trigger, and it was loaded. I was found the next day by a gentleman walking through the park. That's when I was admitted to the hospital in ICU.
When lost, always take the road most traveled. All right, let's go on to the next adventure, man. I'm not seeing anything.
Well, I heard another man say, inside of every man is the capacity of a killer. Every man. I know in the world that we live in, is women can do the same thing as a man. Let's be clear. The nature of a man is protective, and he will kill another man with his bare hands. It's something in them that's a little bit more extreme than a woman. Now, some men have matured. They know how to deal with conflict more than others. And then you have other men who find their release literally in being physical. It's important for me to be able to protect myself at the highest level. You see this little thing right there? Okay. All right. Some people, you gotta speak their language. Listen, I don't know who wakes up saying, I want to kill somebody. I don't. But then you got people who do.
You know, I got married at 19. A lot of people got married out of high school. So we were married for about a total of 5 years. I told him, I was filing for divorce and everything. I didn't get much reaction. We had breakfast, and then about a week later, he shows up at my job, which I was working at UPS at the time on the preload, and he came to my car, and the car door, I was just getting ready to step out, but he stood in front of the door and he said, I want you to drive somewhere. And I said, Mark, I can't. It's like, I got to go into work. It's Christmas rush. We can't have any time off. I've got to be on time for work. And so he started shooting. There were 6 bullets in the gun. He shot at me 5 times. 4 bullets hit me. 3 entered and exited. 1 missed. 1 lodged in my spinal cord. So I was left in the car it was probably 5 in the morning. And he drove off. And one of the bullets went in and lodged in my lung, so I couldn't really breathe very well. So I'm hanging on my steering wheel, and I've got my elbow on the horn. And then, of course, the ambulance comes, and I'm on my way to the ER, and I hear over the radio in the ambulance that there's another one right behind you, which they were referring to the gunshot wound, another gunshot victim. And my ex shot himself in the head. He ends up in the ER about 5 or 10 minutes after me.
They're learning firearm safety rules, firearm shooting fundamentals. They're mostly just getting acquainted or familiar with the concept of using a firearm. They're not going to leave here experts or marksmen, and some of them will leave here and they'll never shoot again, which is never my goal or intent, but I understand for some people it's a novelty. Some people come because of some activating event where, they either experience some type of violence or crime, or they know someone who has, or they saw something on the news about, violent crime, and, out of fear, they decided to come take a firearms class. But for most people, it's just that. They're just responding to that initial fear. And then, once they come take the class, it's like, well, I feel safer because I now know how to use a firearm, which it's wild because they're actually not any more safer than before they came to the class. They just have a little bit more knowledge about one way to defend yourself with a firearm or a weapon. And they have to take it upon themselves to become sponges and learn everything there is to know about firearms, self-defense, gun laws, use of force. It's a lifestyle change. And most people don't realize that coming into it, that your whole life has to change when you decide to become a gun owner. How you see the world, what you think, what you feel, how you interact with other humans, it's never going to be the same.
Something I'm grateful for. Doctors keeping me alive and actually putting my head back together. When I tell people the magnitude of my brain injury, they won't believe me. They kind of like, Mark, you're so well put together. It impresses me what doctors were able to do, because the gunshot, the entrance wound is right here, which is actually, that was point blank. My right orbital socket, my whole right eye socket was completely shattered and rebuilt with silicone. My left cheekbone is completely shattered and completely rebuilt, also with silicone. My left jaw is a complete shatter and has a total rebuild done to it. My right jaw was rewired back together because there was issues with the connection. The blood pressure was so exponentially high because I was losing so much blood and I was so much damage up here. My body was forcing all the blood from my body up top. And the blood pressure was so extreme, doctors actually had to put a tube in my head to allow the blood pressure as well as the brain fluids to leak and drain out. So that's another thing that traumatized my family and friends. They had a really hard time looking at me at the hospital in the condition I was in. People said my head was the size of a hot air balloon, that my eyes were swollen to the point where they looked like softballs. I was so not something to look at and so disproportionate. A lot of my friends and family say that they still have a hard time getting that image out of their head. So again, I'm grateful doctors were able to keep me alive and what they were able to do to keep me together. I have a great appreciation for that.
The surprise is not that there's an active shooter. The surprise is we can't get past the narrative of, oh my gosh, again. And then have the gunfight take precedent, the mental health fight take precedent, the family core values take precedent. We need to get back to reality and just talk about what can we do to mitigate these things. And I would start with, if social media can tag a post of yours from yesterday in 1/1,000,000th of a second that says, I have a cold, I wonder if I have COVID. And it comes back and says, visit the COVID-19 center at the CDC or visit the CDC for COVID-19 information, whatever it says. It's instantaneous. Well, I would say at this point, active shooters are an epidemic. At one a week, and we're losing people that we shouldn't lose, that's an epidemic. The last 10 shooters in active shooter events told someone of their intention, and the majority of them use social media to either talk about their manifesto, notify their friends via Messenger, or actually live stream their events like we saw in Buffalo at Tops Grocery Store, we saw in Louisville at the bank, and there's several others where they're live streaming their actual deeds. And social media allows that to happen. Shouldn't we be able to tag a post about active shooters in real time and alert someone to say, there's a problem and we probably need to address it?
It feels like the people inside our TVs and phones want us to kill each other, whispering in our ears about who or what is really to blame for the lives that are taken every day with a gun. Some people believe that after every mass shooting, the feds will come for their guns, and others think they will be able to fend off the feds and their indestructible drones with their personal stockpiles. I bought my AR after Washington State banned their purchase, and I don't even live in Washington State. People and guns just don't mix like they used to. Our minds are too freakish and weak. The dads are crazy, the moms are crazy, the kids are crazy, the cops are crazy, the politicians are crazy. Maybe it's the McDonald's or the Cheetos, the Mountain Dew, the limited edition candles that smell like fruit. Whatever it is, it's everywhere. And everything in America feels like propaganda, like a manipulation set before my eyes. Behind my eyes, fucking my brain. I don't think the feds are coming to take my guns. I don't think the United States government is afraid of me. I'm more afraid of myself than I am of the government.
Let's try this grouse thing and see what happens. They're usually up here, so we just need a little bit of luck and correct timing and better shooting on my part, but then again, more than half the time, you're unsuccessful. I'm just taking a moment to listen. If you hear a grouse up here, it almost sounds very similar to like a dirt bike starting up, or like some motorized smaller vehicle. It has a brrr type of sound. Usually you'll see the silhouettes of them. Search continues, man. Listen for them. They might just be standing right in front of us.
So in Marshall's class, I hope to get a refresher, get my weight up, the fellowship. I love being around the other ladies. It is always a thing for me to see that many women out there taking responsibility for their own safety. I love it. More women are coming around. Can't be scared no more.
All right, ladies, so welcome. My name is Marshall Tig Davis. Please call me Tig, like T-I-G. I'm the owner of My Sister's Keeper Defense.
Immediately after I got discharged, I was in the hospital for 3 months. I got discharged and I got involved with the Shepherd Spinal Center in Atlanta, which is a model regional spinal cord injury center, and started outpatient there, and that's where I got introduced into wheelchair sports. And I got into wheelchair track, and then I progressed from wheelchair track to road racing, marathons, 10Ks. I did some able-bodied and disabled triathlons, and then retired my racing career when I moved back to Georgia and got into 3-event water skiing. So I competed internationally there and was on the world team. And then once I moved to California, that's when I got into the gun sports.
Good luck today.
You too.
Good morning. It's just because I'm so cute. Yeah, it's me. Good morning.
Coming out of the coma, I had to accept and deal with the repercussions of my brain injury and the fact I have total blindness now for the rest of my life. It was hard because with the brain damage, my short-term memory was so bad. Almost every day when I woke up, I couldn't remember why I couldn't see. And it took a while. After a couple of weeks of waking up almost every day, like, why can't I see it? And my short-term memory started eventually regaining itself. And I started remembering that I was blind and couldn't see, but I had to re-acknowledge it and re-admit it every day and try to remember it. I called a friend when I got released from the hospital and started living with them, and slowly, piece by piece, started putting my life together. My biological mom came back into the picture, and I started living with her. While living with her, I slowly started rehabilitating myself and accepting my vision loss. And at one point, I was dating someone. When my girlfriend met my father and we actually had dinner together, we got back home to my apartment. My girlfriend told me that my father had disclosed something to her that I never knew. And that's when my girlfriend that I was dating told me, after my attempted suicide, when I was in a coma and on life support, the doctors actually had found and discovered my biological mom was sexually abusing me. No one ever told me, and this wasn't disclosed to me when I was released from the hospital. So I got a restraining order, I changed my phone number, started living with the girlfriend I was dating until I found this apartment that I'm currently in while we are filming this.
And then when we go into the range, you're gonna do them using a real firearm. Grip. So I'm going to demonstrate a proper two-handed thumbs forward grip using this training pistol. After I demonstrate, then we're gonna have you all use your training pistols to show me that you understood what I meant when I talked about a proper grip, okay? So you can just leave them where they are for now. So first, with my proper grip, I'm making sure I'm following the safety rules. My muzzle is pointed in a safe direction. My trigger finger is indexed. So grab your firearm, trigger finger indexed, and we're dominant hand only right now. So we're starting with one hand. Squeeze your hands together. There you go, perfect. And when I check you, you can relax and set your training pistol down if you want to. All right, squeeze your palms together. So close this gap here. So just squeeze there. Keep this thumb up higher. There you go, perfect. Just like that. Good, good grip, good grip, good grip, good grip, good grip. I must be a good instructor because y'all all did it right. The goal is to orient your firearm to where you're looking through the rear sight to see your front sight in the center and flat across the top. This is step one of aiming. So I'm holding the firearm here. I'm looking through my rear sight to see my front sight. It's just the term of it. My dot is actually green. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this. Hold the firearm, trigger finger indexed. Hold it out away from your face. Both eyes open. Look until you can see the green circle in there. Both eyes open. Tilt down a little bit. Move slowly. Can you see it? It's kind of difficult to find if you're new to this.
Is that something you added to your gun?
Yeah. So if you look through here, at some point, if you like rotate a little bit, keep your head still, but like rotate your hand slightly. Look through the window. Ignore the sights. Okay, that's fine. But it's in there, I promise, it's in there. You do not bring your firearm out. You do not present your firearm. I'm not, hey, I got that thing. I'm not doing any of that. The only time someone's gonna see my firearm is if I've already made the decision to take life in defense of my own. If I've not decided to take their life, I do not need to present my, for what? Why, right? Having a firearm, if someone's already decided to hurt you, is not a deterrent. The deterrent is those shots taking place, stopping them from being a threat to me in the first place. Okay, so if you have not decided, if you've not made the decision that you want to take life in defense of your own, don't purchase a firearm. And I mean that in all sincerity because that's what they're designed for. Just having it and waving it around, one, that can be considered a crime, brandishing. So you can go to jail for that. If you're waving it around and saying terroristic threats, that can also be considered a crime as well. So again, the way the law is written, and we're going to talk more about that later today, is if you are using lethal force, lethal is the operative word. You are using it to take life in defense of your own. If you do not want to take a life, that's great. Use another means of self-defense that is not designed to take life.
They said 200 today, I think. For the round count for the day.
Good morning. Good morning. Morning. Oh yeah. What's your name?
Emily.
Emily. Brianna, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for coming out, volunteering.
Thank you.
Is everyone else all set? Perfect.
And then people always wonder, like, well, how can you? Why would you want to shoot guns? Aren't you mad? Aren't you angry? And I think sometimes we have to meet our fears. And to me, the fear wasn't about firearms. It was probably more about the person, being afraid of the person.
So the non-threats got jazz hands on them. So don't shoot me, the innocents.
Got it.
But for me, to be able to overcome the fear and then to get proficient in the sport really gives me the opportunity to feel very powerful.
So the other squad will start over there and then we'll flop. So you'll get to see this stage when you come over here. You can go over there and see that stage. Okay? So Carol, Emily, Jay, Enoch, and David. Since you were up here, Emily, step on up. Buzzer goes off. First thing you guys do is you're going to push that white plate over.
Have fun, kid.
Few locations. This moment in time, we're actually looking for rabbit, jackrabbit, any type of hares or rabbits in general. Just looking, scoping. Because if I do see something,
There's no way that we can't have a common sense conversation with our children about guns and what happens if somebody brings one to school. Or our spouses of what happens if they're at work and somebody comes in and starts shooting. What are those things they can do? It sounds so simple. If gunfire is coming from your left, move to the right. If it's coming from behind you, move to the front. You have a 97% chance of not being shot if you move. The problem is you need to know where to move. You need to overcome the fight, flight, or freeze. Get up and win and get out because no one is coming to help you. There's a new term that's coined. It's called doomed captives. So when the police show up to a location, they're not coming to help the doomed captives. They're coming to stop the shooter. Because even the most basic trained police officer that can put on a tourniquet, it takes approximately 60 seconds to stop the bleeding. So if they stop the bleeding for you, the average active shooter can take 4 lives in 60 seconds.
And my recovery, the biggest word is acceptance, because the first couple of years, I really didn't want to accept what I did and what I had to live with. I was in denial of that, the fact that I was blind. I wouldn't use a cane anywhere I went. I wouldn't really admit that I was blind. I just tried to do everything the same way that I used to operate and function when I had my vision. It wasn't very helpful. So I eventually started rehabilitating myself. I saw professionals. I started operating with Department of Rehabilitation, as well as I discovered the Lake County Center for Independent Living, which is an incredible nonprofit organization. Like I said, I've been living by myself now for almost 8 years. I've had my own apartment. For 8 years, I do all of my own grocery shopping, all of my own cooking and cleaning. I function as a highly functional, independent, blind individual. You notice I have stickers on the actual temperatures to indicate where I'm at on the temperature. That helps me a lot. I can just line it up here with the sticker here, line it up with the temperature I want to be on. That's how I use my oven when I want to. So I'm my blind advocate over at the Center for Independent Living. I was talking to them one day about the microwave and how sometimes I'm trying to shoot for the number and I have no idea what I'm pressing. I'm so far off. I'm just aimlessly pressing buttons and hopefully I'm doing it right. They told me to use stickers. They told me it's a universal keypad. So just find a sighted person to help me put the stickers on, and from there on out, I'll be able to press and find the buttons. And I was like, brilliant. Something as simple as stickers I didn't think about. But that's why I'm a consumer at the Lake County Center for Independent Living. Sometimes there's things you won't think about that other people can provide the information and the resources. Wow. Hard-boiled eggs. Your universal great food. All right, that'll do it. There we go. I need to go back a little more. Yeah, there we go. Centered. Get the burner going. Boom, we have fire. Check it out, people. We're just going to wait that out a little bit.
Could hear it.
And I'm going to try not to disappoint you too much.
No, you're not going to disappoint me. Shoot slow. You're here. You're first time. Just shoot slow. It doesn't matter what your time is. It's better to be accurate than fast, right? Where's my cup?
I had to tape it back together.
Okay. I was able to get High Lady last year. I'm not sure how that's going to work out this year, but I trained a little bit, not as much as I did last year. But we'll see what happens during the competition.
And holster. The range is clear. 16:37. Yeah. I'll take that. Probably have to be retaped.
Yeah. How many down? One?
Two.
Two.
Guns mean violence. They mean death. And they mean self-preservation and self-love. And guns have no memory. And guns can't say what's on their mind. And if they're okay, or if they're lonely, or if they want to go out and play with the other guns. Ha ha, gun comedy. Boo hoo, gun comedy. Yee-haw, gun comedy. America is a gun comedy, and we're the performers. And the politicians write it, and the media companies write it. And we are performing our roles and identities every day. Why is God so silent right now? Can't He hear us, our thoughts, our prayers? We're speaking English, aren't we? Maybe it is God who cannot speak, struck mute by what He has done.
If you look in the window, look through the windows, you see the numbers in the lanes on the left-hand side of each lane? Y'all see them? Okay, so those will be the lanes that you're going to be going to. When we go into the range, you're going to find your lane and then step all the way to the back of the range so I have space to walk through. Where's your firearm? It's in that bucket. Which one is yours?
380. It's the
Not that one.
Oh, no, the rose gold.
There you go. All right, all the way in, eyes front. So you should be looking at your target, not looking at me. All the way in, step all the way to the table, all the way to the table. Do not lean. Yep, you can go first. Whoever wants to go first, doesn't matter. Hold it up, one hand only, hold it up, point it forward, good. Finger off of the trigger. Rich, you good down here? All right, so everyone should have their firearm in their dominant hand and their magazine in their support hand. Perfect. Now, you're just gonna insert that magazine all the way up until it clicks. So push it in there. Good. So put your support hand over the top of the slide. Don't pull yet, but just put it on top. Switch your hands around. Good. Hand on top. So dominant hand on, now put your support hand on the firearm. Palms together, thumbs forward. Pick it back up. Where you going?
My arm was tight.
I got you. Put your hand on there. Left hand on the firearm. Remember, left hand on? Your right hand's fine. Put your left hand on. Right thumb higher than left thumb. Good. And then bring your arms back to your chest. Relax, 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 relax. All the way back, right here. Relax your arms and shoulders. Muzzle pointed forward, not up. Good. All right, both hands on the firearm. One shot. Arms out, lean in. Aim, slow press. Front sight's too high. Arms out, lean in, slow press. Arms out. Good. Finger off, arms back.
I really want people to know that just because you have an illness, if you're struggling with something, it's not your fault and it's no reason for people to dislike you or to walk out of your life. It's nothing wrong with you. It's a condition. It's not your fault, and it's something you can learn to live with and be happy and prosperous. I want anybody to know with any mental illness or any debilitating physical attribute, I want you to know it's not your fault and you don't have to set your limits of what you can and can't do. I want you to know you can be very high functioning and independent, and you can set goals and do the things that you want to. I want people to know that because I went blind from a brain injury 19 years ago, if I've already been living on my own for almost 8 years and been able to come so far, you could do so much. Because I had no self-worth and no reason to want to help myself, but I eventually learned how to. I developed self-love and self-advocacy, and I was able to completely flip the switch. I was able to completely turn my script around and have a different perspective of my life and who I was. And I want people to know you can do the same thing.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon. How are we?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, thank you. I'm actually in the process of hard boiling some eggs. It sounds like we came to a boil.
Yeah, it's definitely boiling. I see bubbles.
Okay, rock and roll. Pow. Get that flame off. Boom. Bam. That's what we're doing, baby. Pow. Eggs going back in the fridge, everybody. Pow. That'll be my lunch later. Unless, what time is it? I don't know.
guns out of the holster.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Zero. Zero.
We talked about Columbine taking 45 minutes to get in, and we bought all this equipment for police. We bought them guns, we bought them ballistic shields, faster cars, better radios, and we see some of that break down and fail in 2018 at Parkland with no response. But then we see this tragedy in Uvalde where 376 police officers were on scene, and they waited an hour and 17 minutes. I don't know why they waited. I don't really want to know why they waited. I've got more empathy and compassion for the dead 19 children and the 2 school teachers that lost their lives so senselessly. And they had, quote unquote, active shooter training months earlier. But did it include the kids? Did it include the teachers? Was it just the staff and the administration? Was it only the police? All these things you have to look at and say, okay, well, where was the single point of failure? And with Uvalde, there were so many failures. And the fact that it took one officer to finally engage after an hour and 17 minutes, hero. He got grazed on top of the head. I think he got shot in the ankle or near it or grazed. But he neutralized the shooter instantly. Why wasn't that being done before? And some of the feedback that came out, well, the police were nervous or scared or unprepared, underprepared because they had never been in a gunfight. That was some quotes. Well, I've got news for you, especially if you're watching this. You know who else was never in a gunfight? That kid that took the lives of the 19 kids and the 2 teachers. So instead of making excuses, and I don't think anybody will make an excuse for any of those police officers, I would just tell you, it's time to just stop this from happening. Train everybody across the board. Give them some basic educational principles. Let's create a standard for the public. And let's make sure the police standard is correct and accurate and doable.
At the bottom of it? Is that what I'm missing?
No, the top of this needs to match the top of this. So does it match? Can you see that top of that front sight? Match them.
Oh, I see what you
Yes. Good. And then put the front sight on the X.
I thought,
It's okay. It's okay. Stay with it. All right, arms out, lean in. We're taking another shot. Right thumb higher than left thumb. There you go. Good. Lean in a little bit.
I think I got it.
All right, focus on that front sight. Commence firing. Front sight on the X. Slow press. Slow. Got it. Slowly bring it back. Slowly. You got it. Good. Finger out, arms back. Finger out, then arms back. So you got to do this first. Finger out, then arms back. Good. Remember that step. That's important. It's more important than looking at where your shot went. I know you're concerned with seeing if you hit or not. You got to get that finger off the trigger first, okay? You see your shot?
Yes, I do.
Right below the bullseye. Way closer than you were in the beginning, right?
Way closer.
Exactly.
Because I thought I knew, but
I got you. That's why I'm here. That's my whole job.
We need a new vision to create solutions to more than our issues with guns. Guns might be our leverage to create this change. And I can't help my hatred for these people. I won't help my hatred for these people. The world is worse because of them. The human conflict is engineered for their benefit. Who gets to decide? Wouldn't the world be better without some people? I have a hard enough time picking what I want to eat. We need a new vision to create solutions for the problems that arise from our new vision.
Been a long time smoker, actually. Probably about 8th grade is when I first started. In 8th grade, I was just a punk rock kid, just getting high. But now over the years, I've actually learned to appreciate the medicinal aspects of weed. It helps me a lot with my insomnia, helps me a lot with my mindfulness. It's normal for me to be either thinking about my past or thinking about my future and not current and in the present. Weed really just helps me physically relax. It helps me sit down and be content and mindful in the moment. I'm just firing up a pipe and listening to the music and enjoying the moment at the time. I'm not somewhere else. But now we're putting on a track that I'm all about the lyrics. The song's called I Just Want to Shine. My older brother yesterday texted me this when he discovered this song, and I've been listening to it on repeat since.
Yeah. Stay out of my head 'cause it's dangerous, and I don't wanna lose my mind. No, I just wanna shine like the sun when it comes up from the city from the rooftops. 'Cause today's gonna be my day. I live this life with no regret. I listen for you, respect. Hey, smoke and bitch with
And actually, talking tattoos, that's something that does remind me, something I haven't really brought up too much so far today. One thing that also make it so I'll never commit or attempt suicide ever again too is actually my brothers. After my suicide attempt, when I thought about how it made my brothers feel, the fact that they got a phone call, the hospital, when they called them, they didn't even know it was a suicide. The hospital called them and said, hey, your brother's right now in a coma. We have him in ICU. He's been shot in the head. That's all they knew. My brothers had no idea it was a suicide. I can't imagine what was going through their heads, what they thought about what happened to me. I can't even imagine. It's even worse that when my little brother got to the hospital, he was the first person to know it was a suicide. My little brother really paid attention to my habits. He knew who I was. He knew that I was bad about communicating things. When I had problems, I would do self-harm, when I would hurt myself, like I talked about earlier. He walked into the hospital, first thing he did was walk over to me and pick up my hands. And when he saw them, he fell apart and said, Mark did it, it was a suicide. My little brother was the first person to know, the first person to tell my family. So I was living with my older brother at the time. I can't imagine what he feels, the guilt and the regret that they carry. I wanted people in my life who I thought were walking out of my life to feel guilt and regret. I didn't realize the impact I was going to have on the people who weren't walking out of my life. The people that really do truly love me, my brothers. That's why the reason I brought it up when we're talking tattoos, to remember my brothers and that I will never attempt again. This is one of my tattoos I got for them. When I was in a coma and on life support, both of my brothers got that tattoo on different places of them with my birthday and with my initials, because doctors weren't sure if I was going to survive or not. So that's one reason why, again, I will never attempt. And one of the things that most people who are suicidal don't think about, the real true people they have in their life that do love them, that's focused on that Yahoo who cut them off on the corner when they were driving their car, their girlfriend who they've been dating for 6 months who did them wrong. That's what they're thinking about. Remember the real people you have in your life. That's why I'll never attempt again, because of my brothers. Right, you don't have to bow your head in shame.
Yeah, it's a simulator. Yeah. It ain't real, but you know, it's real-ish.
It's dark.
In real life, it might be dark.
Back up!
Okay, good.
Back up,
Clear,
man.
concise. Oh, Lord. Okay. Not bad. Good shot. Okay, so it only took one shot to eliminate the threat. Now what? What do you do after you take the shot?
All right, let me make sure he ain't got nothing else. Let me drop that because he still might have
All right.
something in him.
Watch your hand in front of the muzzle.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay, calm down. Am I calm? Am I good?
Okay. Okay.
Fayetteville police, come here.
Lord.
For real.
Right, what does that phone call sound like?
Shanera, I'm over here at the GA firing line.
Okay.
I'm a victim of a crime.
Okay.
I'm wearing a purple jacket. He wearing this peep hat with a green vest. Whatever.
Okay.
That's all I got. Peace out.
All right, send help, hang up. Okay. Good job. Good job. All right, let's give her a round of applause. Great.
So I grew up on a ranch to where we raised a big portion of our food for sustenance. So we'd have poultry, we'd have goats, sheep, cattle, and, you know, we would butcher our own food in order to consume it. And so then that went hand in hand with hunting, to where a lot of those, you could say those skills or that practice kind of overlaps whenever you're skinning or gutting an animal. And so then at a very young age, I was exposed to that, and I had a deeper appreciation of where my food came from, because we raised it. So whenever I went to the outdoors, I was able to also appreciate the game that I harvested. Now, because that was such a big part of my life, an integral part of my life that my parents, my dad, introduced me to as a young age, I really don't know what else I would be doing if I wasn't introduced to this practice.
And I'd like to leave you with one thing. You know, the person making this documentary came to me and said they wanted to be an inside linebacker in the NFL tomorrow. And they said they couldn't wait to be an inside linebacker. They've been waiting their whole life. Well, let's pretend they weigh 150 pounds, soaking wet. So we go to the sporting goods store at night and we buy them a new uniform. We get them all the greatest stuff there is, the best equipment you can buy. And we outfit them and we say, okay, here's the rules. Let's watch football every Sunday morning together. We'll go over the rule book and you're going to memorize it. And then we put them on the first play, and we put them on the line, and the whistle goes, ball gets snapped, and he gets mowed over and nearly paralyzed. What went wrong? He had the desire to be an inside linebacker. He just didn't have the ability. He needed a couple hundred more pounds. He needed more lifelong training in violence. Controlled violence like in the NFL. Controlled violence like in the boxing ring. Controlled energy and discipline to know what the appropriate application is. So if we have people out there that want to be police or want to be military or want to be good doers, we need them all. But we need to make sure they have the ability to do what they want. Because there's 8 school massacres that have happened since 2018 that there were armed people on site and they never used their firearm. It's not always good guy with a gun will stop a bad guy with a gun. It's going to take our brains and it's going to take understanding, want and ability, desire over realism. And if we can understand that, we're going to solve this problem quickly.
I have a really good friend that's a physical therapist, and we work together professionally. And so we had this conversation one day about like what would you tell like a spinal cord injury or what a new injury, and I laughed and I told her, I said, well, I've avoided a lot of problems by sleeping on my stomach and being kind. Just being kind to people. You know, as somebody in a chair, and it may be just me, but you become part of the disenfranchised. And so it's interesting to walk down a street or roll down a street and meet somebody that's, you know, I'll say it, that's black, person of color, that will look you in the eye and give you a nod as an acknowledgement of your struggle. And maybe not so much as your struggle, but as a recognition of being a survivor. And I can't tell you how many times that has happened in my life.
All right, look at me. 1, 2, 3. Good. 1, 2, 3. Got it. I will email these to you.
I think that more Black women are becoming gun owners because they see what's happening overall to Black people in America, whether we are being bombarded by police attacking us. You got, was it Ahmaud Arbery was in Georgia, I believe it was, and he was out running, minding his business, and they hunted him down and they killed him. And so we see in particular where we feel like we are literally living our day-to-day lives. And we're not, it's not just being physically attacked, we are being shot to death. And we just need to have a fighting chance to live to tell the story the next day. Unfortunately, it's come to that.
Sometime in the future, when we're all dead, and the dirt of this earth is picked over by greater beings, they will find millions of guns buried on this particular patch of ruined earth. And they will wonder about this part of the earth where the United States was. They'll wonder about us and the lives we led. They'll wonder about the value of these instruments, and if they learn our histories, they will wonder about our stubbornness and our hatred. Or maybe they will laugh, or maybe they will be confused. Maybe they will be inspired. Maybe they'll try to be like us. Love the things we loved, fear the things we feared, kill the things we killed. Maybe they will find it tragic. Maybe they will cry. Maybe they will see us as brave, as fun-loving, as insane, as sexy, as insecure, as impossible. Maybe they will see us as all of those things and understand that that's why we no longer exist.
There's a different system for every person. Treat your trauma, everybody. Don't bury it. Talk about it when you need to. Go to therapy. Go to trauma therapy. Do whatever you have to find your treatment plan. Because if I can do it, you can do it, everyone. Trauma's not easy. It's complicated. It's not universal, it's individual. So it takes you to be able to find it in yourself to know how to handle it and manage your trauma, everybody. If I can do it, you can do it. And that's why make good choices, take care of yourself, treat yourself with love, everyone. Until next time, keep it sexy. I'll catch you on the flip side. Nice, and you notice too in the snapping there at the beginning and the end, that's how I can edit, because I don't have a cue that I can give myself, a visual cue. I do an audio cue. I count out 4 times and then I snap when I'm done. So for editing process. But everybody, that's how we do it. Like I said, that helps me a lot, that I can admit to myself that I have trauma, that not everything works for me. I still experience things I don't want to. I carry it with me. It's a part of who I am. So being able to admit it and talk openly to people about it helps me admit it to myself and helps me be able to work through it. Letting people know that I've come so far with it, that I used to have really bad episodes, not know how to help myself. I was very self-blaming and I would have bad habits to try to help my trauma. But like I said, it was bad. I learned ways to be able to treat it the right way. That's why I'm happy to share this information and things with people to help the people that have struggled the same way I have. Something that means a lot to me.
Selected. Do not disturb. On. Button. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. Personal. Turn off. Do not disturb. Button. Do not disturb. Do not disturb. Wednesday. Community. Alert. Low battery. 20 battery remain. Low power mode. Close. Button. Dot. Messages. Zone. Page 2 of 4. PNC. YouTube. Page. Message. Facebook. 3 new items. YouTube. Page. Dot. Messages. Third page. Spotify. YouTube. PNC.